Okay, hello everybody. Okay, I know I said I was going to do this live, but I've run into some problems, so I just want to get this out here to you guys, go through this, and definitely part 3, we will do that live. Also, once I get through this, and maybe later on, maybe tomorrow or something, I can try and get Doug in with us, and if you have any questions regarding it, you know, either Doug or I could answer that. We'll see what happens with that, okay? So I'm just going to give a bit of a rundown. This is going to be on part 2 of our series on Kendrick Johnson. Part 3 will be next week, and that is when we are going to get into some of the video that I find has captured some stuff that, you know, kind of puts a big question mark on if these stories were all true that we're being told about who was there, who went to this wrestling match, when they went, stuff like that. Also, we're going to go over the specialist that goes over the video footage that was given to police, where he believes that, you know, there's something not right with the videos, things could be missing, etc. We're going to go over that. We're going to go over another video that shows Kendrick in the lunch line with somebody in front of him that was also on the wrestling team that was leaving that day to this wrestling tournament. So it kind of proves that, you know, maybe they didn't leave when they said they left. Somebody who shoves Kendrick. And there's also some video footage of one of the Bell brothers around the time of Kendrick's death on video. So there's lots of information that's going to be coming out in part 3. I don't know if we're going to need a part 4, but definitely a part 3. And there's also females that were interviewed, and some things don't add up there either. Okay, so we're going to get into this. This is part 2. And once you hear all the evidence that's going to be presented to you in my series, you decide if this was an accident or not, okay? So on January 11, 2013, Kendrick Johnson was found rolled up in a wrestling mat upside down in the school's gym where he attended school. The police performed an autopsy and ruled the death accidental. And like I said, we are going to get into this today. It's going to be the initial missing persons report that was filed. And there's some really interesting things with this missing persons report. And when the police go to the school the next day, there's something very odd that I find there that's happened because of a missing person. So we're going to get into that right now, and we're also going to get into a lab report that was done after the initial walkthrough. What was found, where it was found, anything they found suspicious. You know, when the detectives go through and they start writing down everything that they see, where things are. It's a 5-page report. We are going to get into that also, because it's going to be important when we come to the videos, because there's a lot of discrepancies between this report and what is actually on video. So we're going to get into the lab report in part 2, and then the video in part 3. But I wanted you guys to hear the lab report first, so you will have that information as to what was reported by the investigator Jack Winningham, what he reported he's seen as he went over the scene, okay? And then you've already seen the video, and there's going to be more video coming. Okay, so we already went over the 3 autopsies, and we know that the family hired their own independent pathologist to perform a 2nd and then 3rd autopsy. And we do know now that the case has been reopened, and we're going to go in chronological order and lead up to all of that. Okay. So we're going to start off with, I'm going to share the screen on this. I also have it written out in, printed out in paper form, because there's parts that I have highlighted in each of these that I think is going to be important, and things I want you to remember for part 3, because this is going to come into play. Okay. Okay, so we're going to start with, oops, this is not where I wanted to start, or is it? Okay, yes it is. Okay, so this is the initial, what is this? Okay, so this is the initial report that was called in by Kendrick's mother. Okay, so it says, on the 11th day of January 2013, approximately 0.30 hours. So this was the night of the 10th when Kendrick didn't come home, just past midnight, which would go into January 11th, just past midnight here. Oops. It's not going to work for me. I don't know what's going on with my pointer. But anyway, just past midnight, I, Sergeant Roby, was dispatched to 920 Ponderosa Drive, Valdosta, Georgia, 31601, in reference to a missing person. Okay? So upon my arrival, I spoke with the complainant, Jacqueline Johnson. She stated that she drives school bus for the Lowndes County Transportation Service, and in the morning when she gets ready to go to work, her son Kendrick Lamar Johnson, and gives his date of birth, rides with her. So he gets a ride with his mom to school. Okay? Ms. Johnson stated that on this past date at approximately 6:30 hours, Kendrick got on bus 34 and rode it to Lowndes High School. So this is the morning of the 10th. Okay? So he gets up as usual and gets on the bus and goes, gets a ride with his mother to school. Okay? Because she drives school bus. Ms. Johnson stated that after school, Kendrick's supposed to had went to the basketball game, and when the game was over, he called. This is not very well written, so that's why I'm stumbling a bit. It should say he called a family member. See, this is okay. He was supposed to go to a basketball game, and when the game was over, he was supposed to call a family member to come and pick him up. I don't like how they've worded stuff here. Mrs. Johnson stated that approximately 2,300 hours after she did not receive a phone call from Kendrick, she stated that she went to Lowndes High School to see if he was still there. Mrs. Johnson stated that after she was unable to locate Kendrick, she went home and called 911. Okay, so this is the evening of the 10th. Ms. Johnson stated that she did not know any friends that Kendrick would be with, as he was always home around 23:30 hours, so which would be 11:30 at night on school nights. Ms. Johnson stated that the last time she saw Kendrick was approximately 6:30. That was white tennis shoes. Okay, those are the Nikes that were in the rolled up mat with him. Okay, so this is Officer Craig Roby that's writing this. Okay. He says, I spoke with Ms. Johnson at 4 a.m., because that's 4 a.m. on the 11th. She stated that she still had not heard from Kendrick. Kendrick Lamar Johnson, a black male, date of birth 10/10/95, 5'10" height, 165 pounds, slender built, shoulder length, dreadlock hair, brown eyes, and black hair. Okay, so that is the missing persons report that Jacqueline Johnson Kendrick's mother filed. Okay, so we're going to continue on here. Okay, so now we're going to go into the morning of the 11th. Okay, and this is Sergeant Michael Adams narrating this one, okay? And this is what I find funny. And I'm going to show you this right off the hop. And then I will go over each report, okay? This is Sergeant Michael Adams is heading to the school. You see here, he says it approximately, whoops, I almost had it, you guys, right here. Sorry. Okay, I'm just going to do this. I don't know why my thingy isn't working. At approximately 8 a.m. on the 11th, I arrived at Lowndes High School. Okay? We are going to jump to page 10. This is Detective Jack Pretty, who also went to Lowndes High School for a missing juvenile. You see this in the first sentence here. In reference, Detective John Marion went to 16006 Norman Drive, Lowndes High School in reference to a missing juvenile. So now you've got a sergeant and a detective, or another sergeant, sorry. Jack Pretty is another sergeant. So you got two sergeants heading to the school for a missing persons. Okay. We also have a detective. Okay. Heading to the school at 8:45 in the morning in reference to a missing juvenile. So what I find odd here, everybody, is why is there two sergeants and a detective heading to the school for a missing persons report? It just seems odd to me. It just seems odd. I don't know. It seems odd. So you got two sergeants and a detective heading to a school for a teenager who is missing. And why I find that odd is I had a family member who had to report their daughter going missing, and they usually take the report and they say, you know, you got to wait 24 hours, da da da. Okay, he is an older teenager who generally is out till 11:30 at night. Yes, he didn't come home. So the next morning, I could see an officer going to the school to see if he was there. Okay, but to see two sergeants and a detective in the morning heading to the school, what's going on? I just don't get it. Okay, so we're going back to Sergeant Michael Adams. On January 11th, 2013, at 7:45 a.m., I received a missing persons report from Craig Roby. Now, that was the first incident that when Jacqueline reported her son, Kendrick, missing, he took the report, okay, early in the morning. Okay, so Michael Adams is receiving this missing persons report from Sergeant Craig Roby. The report stated at 0:30 hours, so late the 10th into the 11th, Jacqueline Johnson reported her son Kendrick Lamar Johnson missing. At approximately 8 a.m., I arrived at Lowndes High School and asked the school secretary, Jane Vickers, to call teacher Bobby Wilson in his classroom and verify Johnson's absence. When Johnson was confirmed not at school, I printed color pictures of Johnson. At that time, the principal secretary, Arabi Hall, notified me that there was a mother that wanted to speak with me in reference to her missing son. I proceeded to the principal's office where I met Jackie and her daughter, Kaneda. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. They both verbally stated that he has no girlfriends and that he does not particularly hang around any sole person. His sister verbally stated that his closest companion was, and they've redacted it, after discovering that that person had been suspended, I asked dispatch to send the Zone 4 unit, Deputy McCarney, to contact so-and-so, it's redacted, at his residence. After Jackie proceeded to the guidance counselor's office, McCarthy informed me that he made contact with this person and that he stated he has not seen or heard from Johnson since school. Okay? Now, also, he states while he is at the school, so for 2.5 hours, I don't know if what he just said took 2.5 hours for him to do, because he says he arrived there at 8 a.m. So at 8 a.m., he spoke with the school secretary. He got a picture. He talked to Kendrick's mom and sister. He made a call to dispatch to send somebody out to talk to this other guy. I don't know if that would take 2.5 hours, but he's saying that he was still at the school. Okay. So with that, he then states on January 11th at 10:32 a.m. So this is 2.5 hours later. I was dispatched to the old gym. So he's still at the school. What was he doing there for 2.5 hours? Okay. He's not the only officer there. There's there's another sergeant and a detective also there. We're going to get into their statements next. Okay, so he was at 10:32, he was dispatched to the old gym for a cold blue. At 10:35 a.m., I and Deputy Carrie Quinn arrived. And I don't see a statement from Deputy Quinn. The other two officers are Jack Pretty, and John Marion. So I don't know how this other deputy came into play. Maybe from the 911 call, I don't know. He said that he observed students running out of the gym and overheard them saying that was a dead body. Okay, so he goes on to say that he approached the southwest corner of the gym. I detected a mild odor of a corpse. So I don't know what to think about that because nobody else smelt it. Okay, like there was girls and everything apparently on those mats and they didn't smell it. It's only when they seen it. So I don't know how the girls wouldn't have smelt it if you could smell already a corpse. I just find it weird. As I approached the southwest corner of the gym, I detected a mild odor of a corpse. The complainant, Philip Pipelow, was bent over north of the body and verbally said, "I don't think anybody can help him." I and Quinn proceeded to the corner and I observed a blue cheerleader mat laying horizontal and rolled up to approximately 3-foot diameter. In the center of the roll, pointing north, I observed 2 feet with white socks wearing denim jeans. We had to move 3 mats to get to the other end of the cheerleading mat. I thought they were wrestling mats, but he's saying they were cheerleading mats. In the center of the roll, facing south, I observed a black male torso and head wearing white, exposed down to his ribcage. Both arms partially obstructed the face and were moderately stiff. The facial area was severely disfigured and swollen. Remember that. Severely disfigured and swollen. The only identifying feature to the victim that I observed was the long dreadlocks. So that is going to come into play where he said the facial area was severely disfigured and swollen. But the autopsy, the first autopsy said none of that was seen. Okay. Soon after, 3 firefighters arrived on scene and began tending to the body. Not far behind, 2 paramedics arrived on scene and 1 verbally stated rigor had already set in. At 10:43 a.m., I advised the dispatcher 109D and asked for him to alert the detectives. Well, there was already a detective there, right? Detective John Marion was already there. So I don't know. This just seems all weird to me. It seems very, in my opinion, rehearsed. I directed Quinn to establish a crime scene log while I monitored the 2 entrances. There was 4 entrances to that gym. So I just find some of this really weird. There was 4 entrances to that gym. The one Kendrick came in and another one on the same side and 2 on the other side. So I don't know why he's saying 2 entrances when there's 4. But anyway, soon after the incident was turned over to investigator Jack Winningham. On January 12th at 9 p.m., I sent the dispatcher a request to remove Kendrick Lamar Johnson from the system GCIC and CIC as a missing person. Okay, now here is the second sergeant that was on scene. Let's go to his report. Okay, Detective Purdy and Detective John Merriam. Okay, so that's the next report that we will look at. Went to, this is on January 11th, Detective Purdy and Detective John Marion went to 1606 Norman Drive, Laos High School in reference to a missing juvenile. Now, they're not saying they're en route. So this is in the morning, right? Regarding a missing persons. Let me just see back on this other one. Okay, so at 10:43 a.m., Michael Adams, the first report that I read you, said he asked for them to alert detectives. So I guess it's 2 detectives and a sergeant. We're already there on scene, you know, so why didn't he, hey, go get those detectives? But he called dispatch. I don't know why. And he's saying that he directed Quinn to establish a crime scene. And then the incident was turned over to investigator Jack Wingham. At no time does Sergeant Michael Adams mention Detective Purdy and Detective John Marion already being at the school, which I find is weird because right here, as you can see, on January 11th, Detective Purdy and Detective John Marion went to the school in reference to a missing juvenile. While en route to the high school, okay, that's why. Why en route to the high school, Detective Purdy heard over the police radio that there was an unresponsive subject in the old gym at the high school. Okay, so why were detectives already on their way there for a missing person when there was a sergeant already there to get a picture and talk to the school to see if maybe Kendrick was there? Why were detectives going? Like, I just find this odd for a missing person. You know, they hadn't found Kendrick yet at this time when they were all heading to the school. So they're heading there, and he states, upon arrival, Detective Purdy met with Sergeant Mike Adams, who advised the detective that the subject was unresponsive in the gym, was Kendrick Johnson, and he was the deceased. Detective Purdy spoke with Staff Sergeant Bryce Whitner, who advised the detective to go to High School Administrator Bruce Crook and review the school's surveillance video. Okay, so that now this is where things get interesting. Okay. After several hours, Detective Purdy was able to locate the surveillance video from the old gym that showed Kendrick enter the gym but not leave. Detective attempted to produce a copy of the surveillance, but due to some technical problems, he was not able to produce a copy of the surveillance video. Now, in my opinion, at that time, and I think protocol, from what I have read on police protocol, they should have taken the whole system at that point. Okay? They have a deceased person in the gym, and they need this video surveillance. They may need it from the whole school, as you will see later on through this report. Why they did not take that video, that whole surveillance equipment, and have their specialists, people who are trained in doing stuff like this, take it, I don't know, but that's protocol. You don't leave it with somebody who is untrained in police forensics or doing stuff like this to retrieve surveillance that they may need for maybe a possible homicide. You don't leave that evidence behind for somebody else to mess with. You take it. So why that was left, I don't know, but there was a lot of mistakes made here. Detective Pretty spoke with Lieutenant Stride Jones and advised him that the surveillance video showed Kendrick Johnson entering the old gym at approximately 1:09 p.m. and that the time on the surveillance system is not accurate. Lieutenant Jones advised the detective that he needed to obtain a copy of the surveillance video for the entire wing of the school with the old gym for the last 48 hours. Perfect. If you can't make a copy of it, if you can't bring somebody in who's trained, like from the police department, or forensics, who's trained to do this, then you take the whole system. Detective Pretty met with Scott Forth, who is the information technology person for the Lowndes County Board of Education. Detective Pretty explained to Scott that he wanted the last 48 hours of surveillance for the entire wing of the school with the old gym. Scott advised the detective it would take a few days because there is close to 40 cameras on that wing. So, what did they do? The police left evidence with some technician from the County Board of Education. That is evidence, people. He left it there. That is not protocol. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the next one that we are going to look at is Detective Marion. Okay, he is also en route to the school. So you've got a sergeant and, like I said, 2 detectives en route to the school for a missing persons. They did not know at this time when they were heading to the school. This is, as you can see here, approximately 8:45 in the morning. They're heading to the school. The body hadn't been discovered yet. So right now it's just a missing persons. Why are there 2 detectives and a sergeant heading to the school for a missing persons? I don't get it. Okay, so this is Detective John Marion. Detective Marion contacted Sergeant Mike Adams in reference to a missing juvenile, Kendrick Johnson, who attends Lowndes High School. Detective Marion requested Sergeant Adams check attendance records to see if Kendrick was in school, and Sergeant Adams stated he was aware of the situation and that Kendrick was not in school. Sergeant Adams stated he would provide a picture for Detective Marion. Detective Marion advised Sergeant Adams he would meet with him at the high school to retrieve the photograph of Kendrick. At approximately 10:25 hours, so 10:25 in the morning, Detective Marion and Detective Pretty went to 1606 Norman Drive, the high school. While en route to the high school, detectives heard radio traffic of an unresponsive student in the gym of Lowndes High School. Detective Marion and Detective Pretty arrived at the high school and met with Sergeant Mike Adams at the old gym. Adams advised detectives that the unresponsive student, later identified as Kendrick Johnson, was deceased. Okay, now this is going to get interesting. Okay, you can read through the next 2 entries there, but I'm going to jump down to Detective Marion. I'm going to jump down to right here. Detective Marion was then requested to check both the boys' and girls' bathrooms directly across from the old gym for any signs that a struggle might have occurred. While examining the girls' bathroom, Detective Marion located what he believed to be bloody paper towels in the trash can. Detective Marion advised Lieutenant Stride Jones what was discovered in the girls' bathroom. Okay? So, at approximately 11:30 hours, Lieutenant Jones advised Detective Marion to respond to 101 South Nelson Street, Heria Middle School, and speak with Sarah Merriman. Miss Merriman is a teacher at Heria Middle School. Merriam assisted with the Lowndes High School color guard, which was practicing in the old gym the night of January 10th, 2013. Okay? So, if Kendrick was deceased somewhere between 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the 10th and when he was found on the 11th, the next morning, okay? So this is in that time frame. She assists with the Lowndes High School color guard, which was practicing in the old gym the night of January 10th, okay? Detective Marion went and spoke with Miss Merriman. This Marion and Merriman is crazy. Merriman stated she had arrived at the old gym approximately 6 p.m. and was let in the high school by Kelly Wanner, who is a teacher assistant at the high school and also assists with the color guard. Merriman said that the practice went from 6:45 p.m. until 8 p.m. that night, and then they had to load their trailers after practice as they were leaving for competition that week. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Merriman stated she had let what she believed to be a student into the door by the old gym at approximately 7 p.m. She described the student as follows: a black male juvenile, approximately 5'10", 165 pounds, with short black hair, wearing glasses and carrying a book bag. The student walked up the ramp past the old gym towards the main office of the high school, and that was the last she saw of him. Merriman said she left practice at approximately 7:45 p.m. that night. Nobody knows where this person went or who he was. Like, why do you let just some random in the school at night, right? But they did. Okay. So now we're going to get into let me just get it up here. Okay, so now we're going to get into something else odd that happened. Okay. Yes, I'm going to do this one first. I'm just looking over both here. I'm going to get into something else that happened in the next page I pull up for you guys. Let me just take a sip of my coffee. This is going to come into play, okay? This right here. A lot of it is redacted, but it's important, okay? So, on Friday, so this was the Friday, the 11th, at 2:30 in the afternoon. They've redacted some names, but it looks like there's 2 names there. Came to the sheriff's office to report some Facebook posts. Somebody's name redacted, stated that on today's date, after the student had been found at Lowndes High School, a student named something posted on Facebook something to the effect of, when you start messing, the goons' bodies start showing up. She stated that shortly after the post, He, so it's a male that put this post up there, deactivated his account so the message was no longer visible. Whoever this is stated that prior to this date, it looks like somebody's name. Somebody made posts on Facebook that he was going to start killing them off one by one. She explained that Kendrick and several of his friends were part of a group who called themselves CDC, which stands for Cladeville Click. She stated that so-and-so had been feuding with people from CDC because one of CDC's members, blah, 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 and I believe that was Kendrick, was messing with somebody's, and it looks like it starts with, this name starts with either an L, if you can see right here, it almost looks like it starts with an L or a B, something with a line, okay? So, they've been feuding because somebody was saying that someone was messing with somebody's girlfriend named TT, initials TT. So this person was asked if she went to the game on Thursday, and she said no. She stated that she had seen or talked to somebody who said that he had seen Kendrick after school on Thursday. So this is the person that wrote this Facebook post. She was not sure if Kendrick was at the game, but she said she heard that so and so was. So and she provided a written statement. Okay. So why this is going to come into play is because of this. This is Friday again. Okay. Now, this is somebody, an officer responding to an assault that took place on Friday, January 11th, the day that Kendrick's body was found. At approximately 13:25 hours, which is 1:30 in the afternoon, Detective Marion, and this is, this is 1:30 in the afternoon. Detective Marion was advised by Lieutenant Stride Jones to respond to somewhere and meet with Valdosta Police Department units in reference to an assault which occurred. Detective Marion, while responding to the location, was advised by Lieutenant Jones that the party assaulted was so-and-so and had possible contact with the deceased Kendrick Johnson. Upon arrival at the location, Detective Marion, advised by Lieutenant Tom Wheeler and Officer Marion of Valdosta Police Department, that so-and-so had been assaulted by unknown parties at the 1300 block of North Trope Street. Officer Marion stated she would be filing a report with the police department for so-and-so. And this is, I don't know whose name that is, but Officer Marion stated that so-and-so had refused medical treatment at this time. Detective Marion awaited the arrival of so-and-so's guardian, and they give the name. Detective Marion spoke with so-and-so and advised her he would be taking so-and-so, so the mother of this male, to Lowndes County Sheriff Office Criminal Investigation Division to talk to him about Kendrick Johnson and the assault which had just occurred to him. So-and-so said she would follow Detective Marion to the sheriff's office in her personal vehicle, and that it was okay to speak with her son about both incidences. I'm just going to go down here so you guys can follow along. Detective Marion transported so-and-so to the Lowndes County Sheriff's Criminal Division, Investigations Division. Detective John Marion read an acknowledgement and waiver of rights form to so-and-so. After the reading of each Miranda, I would believe, rights, or of so-and-so's rights, Detective Marion asked so-and-so if he understood each right. He acknowledged he understood each of his rights with a verbal yes, and placed his initials beside each one. So-and-so, and this is a short name, also signed the waiver indicating he understood his rights and wanted to speak with the detective about an attorney, without an attorney present. Detective Perry Connell was also present during the reading of so-and-so's rights and signed the waiver as a witness. So-and-so stated he had heard that someone was found dead at the high school today and that he was being blamed for it. So I believe this is one of the Bell brothers. Okay. Detective Marion asked so-and-so if he knew who was found deceased at this high school, and so-and-so said, yes, I guess KJ. That why his sister came with them to try and get me. Detective Marion then asked why he would be blamed for KJ's death. So-and-so said, I don't know. Detective Marion asked if so-and-so had posted anything on Facebook recently that would make people think he had any problems with Kendrick Johnson. So-and-so said he had no problems with Kendrick Johnson and first stated he didn't have a Facebook page, and then said he had not posted anything on Facebook in 2 to 3 days. So-and-so provided a written statement about the assault that occurred on him. Detective Marion added this statement to the case file. So I believe that the one that I just prior read to you, that was one of the Bell brothers. I believe, in my opinion, by how I'm reading this, that he posted, I believe, on Facebook something to the effect that when you start messing with the goons, the bodies start showing up. Okay? And said prior to that date, posts were made on Facebook that he was going to start killing them off one by one. Okay? So this is what happened. Once the police report was made as a missing person, for some reason, a sergeant, 2 detectives showed up at the school. I don't know why. And then this assault happened. So I don't know what is going on here, you guys, but there's some weird stuff going on. Okay. Now I do have the lab report. I'm not going to go through the full thing on this video. Or maybe I will. Or I will just skim over it. And because you've seen the video, so here is the lab report, okay? Okay, so this is investigator Jack Wynnum. Now, this is him walking through the crime scene, and after it was sealed off, when he arrives there, he's walking through the crime scene, and he's making a crime scene narrative as to everything he's seen when he was there, okay? How things were, what was where, how things were placed, what was done, okay? So this report we'll get through as much as this as I can. If I can't get through it all, it will go into part 3, okay? This report is in reference to a request for crime scene forensic services made to Valdosta Lowndes Regional Crime Laboratory on January 11, 2013. This report may contain conclusions, opinions, and or interpretations made by the author. So this is what Jack Winningham is coming to conclusion of, his opinions and interpretations of what he is seeing at the scene. Okay, he says on Friday, January 11th at approximately 10:48 hours, I was contacted by Captain Wanda Edwards of the Criminal Investigations Divisions at the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office in reference to a deceased student at the high school. I'm not going to read all these addresses each time, you guys. You can read it as we're going through it. And advised I would be en route. On Friday, January 11th at approximately 11 hours, 8 minutes, so 11:08 in the morning, I arrived at the high school. I was briefed by Investigations Staff Sergeant Jack Wingham. Staff Sergeant Wingham advised that Lowndes County Sheriff investigators were dispatched by Lowndes County 911 Center to the old gymnasium at the high school. I was advised that students at the high school were in the old gym when they decided to climb up on padded mats that were rolled up in the vertical position. I was advised that the students climbed up on top of the rolled mats and they saw what appeared to be white in color socks. The students advised that they approached the socks to get a closer look, in which they discovered it was a body. I was advised that the students notified a teacher, in which the teacher started pulling the vertical position mats down into the horizontal position to gain access to access the situation. When the teacher made their way to the rolled up mats in the back row along the old gymnasium southwest wall, they saw what appeared to be a deceased body. It was advised that the body was positioned head first inside the rolled up mat. EMS arrived on scene, and the victim was student Kendrick Johnson, black male, his date of birth, where he lived, was slightly pulled out of the mat and found deceased. So they pulled him out of the mat, from what I'm understanding, or tried to. That's why his shirt was pulled up. The campus at this address contains multiple buildings located east of Norman Drive. The constructed building is a public high school campus. The buildings on this campus are constructed with red brick, so he's describing the area, okay, that has multiple offices, etc. You can read through all this, pause it and read through it if you want to read the whole thing, but I'm just going to be skimming through it. Okay, the scene was established with crime scene tape and secured by the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office personnel. While on scene, I noted the following people, and he says who he's seen there. There's a whole paragraph here of them. Okay, so on January 11th at approximately 11:25 in the morning, an initial walkthrough of the exterior and interior of the scene was conducted by Sergeant Winningham and myself. Nitrile gloves were worn by all crime scene personnel entering the scene throughout the investigation. A cursory inspection of the east side, front of cafeteria and old gymnasium building, entry and exit doors and windows were conducted, in which appeared to be no signs of forced entry. I started processing the scene by taking overall photographs of LHS main entrance with the assistance of criminalist McGraw and criminalist Lieutenant Salters. A three-dimensional 3D image of the interior scene was created using the LISA C10 scanning system. Upon completion of the LISA scans documentation, GBI personnel entered the scene for initial walkthrough to assist with the investigation. I photographed the crime scene, taking overall mid-range photographs of the campus exterior, cafeteria, old gymnasium. The exterior and interior of the scene was video recorded with digital camcorder. That's what I showed you in part 1. A cursory search of the exterior west wing was conducted by GBI. Okay. All exterior trash cans in the area were searched. The entry exit doors to the rear west side of the building. So it's just noting here what they documented, what they took pictures of, the windows, and they came to the conclusion there was no forced entry. Okay, so the interior of the old gym, taking overall and mid-range photographs. During the cursory search, areas of concern were identified. The evidentiary items were identified using yellow identification numbers. I observed 1 black and white Adidas shoe on the floor in front of a rolled up mat, laying horizontally in the southwest corner of the old gymnasium. I observed 1 yellow 2-pocket folder on the gym floor in front of a rolled up mat near the west wall of the gymnasium. I observed 1 blue and color physical science book on the mat behind 2 rolled up mats near the southwest entry. I observed a gray Hollister pullover hooded sweater on the concrete floor around multiple horizontal and vertical rolled up mats in the southwest corner of the old gymnasium. I noted a rolled up mat containing Johnson's deceased body in the horizontal position on the concrete floor of the old gymnasiums. There were what appeared to be blood stains on the south wall of the old gymnasium. A blood presumptive test was performed on the stains by GBI crime scene specialist Horn, which, according to the manufacturer's instructions, the stains were positive for blood. Okay, so we've got blood, not only with Kendrick, we've got blood on the wall. As you heard from the other police reports that I read to you earlier, there was also blood found in the girls' bathroom. Does this not all seem odd? You've got a deceased male, Kendrick. You've got blood on the wall near him, near the mats and everything. You've got blood with Kendrick, which is his. You got blood on the wall, and you got blood in girls' bathroom. Okay, it was also noted that a pair of black, gray, and orange and colored Nike shoes were observed near the bleachers on the north wall of the old gymnasium. It appeared that the shoes had stains that looked similar to blood. A blood presumptive test was performed on the stains by GBI crime scene specialist Horn, which, according to the manufacturers, it was negative for blood. Okay, so you can read through all this, you guys, but they go through all the pictures. You've seen all this in the crime scene video that I showed you of what this person took for evidence. I'm going to jump to parts where I think is important. Okay, so this is just saying what he's found with Kendrick. Okay, how they took the measurements of where things were. Okay, how he found his body. Okay, we were wondering earlier why his shirt was pulled up and why his pants were unzipped when he was found. It says here during his examination, Lowndes County Coroner Bill Watson unfastened Johnson's belt and jeans, and his body was documented with additional photographs. So I believe that they pulled up his shirt and everything to get photos. Like I said, if you guys want to pause this and read through it yourself, that is why I am going slowly through this. Okay, so then he says how they placed Johnson's body in a sterile white sheet to conduct an additional cursory examination for documentation, and how they found his body. I really don't want to go through all this again, okay? Okay, there's some initial things here that they found. Oops. Here, how he found and what he's seen when he's seen the body. He's saying, do you remember earlier when the officer said that his face looked busted up and swollen? He says here there appeared to be no visible signs of wounds to Johnson's body. Okay, there was no signs of skin slippage or nothing on the face, the arms, nothing, which I find odd. Okay. Okay, so during the removal of Johnson's body from the rolled up mat, this is what else they found. They found the other black and white Adidas shoe at the bottom of the mat. They searched Johnson's pockets, in which an LG cell phone was located, and it was in his left front blue jeans pocket. Okay, he tells how the chain of command with this evidence is crucial. Who had what? When did they have it? Who looked at it? Who touched it? In case anything goes astray, right? So this is why, you, like I said, you can read this. And he says each time he gets a piece of evidence, he puts it into a bag or a box, seals it, puts it in his vehicle, and maintains the keys. Okay, so the chain of command. Okay, so approximate measurements of the rolled up mat. I'm sorry, you guys, I am so sick. That's why I did not go live with this. I have to keep muting. So if you hear me take a little break, that is why. I don't want to cough my head off and let you guys hear that. So I do take a little break sometimes. That's why I'm muting myself and coughing. Okay, so this is giving the measurements of the mats. The rolled up mat was approximately 14.5 inches diameter at the opening of its widest point. The head end where Johnson's head was rolled up was approximately 14.75. Okay, and from what we know, his shoulders were 19 inches. There's no way that he went in that mat. I just don't see it. Okay, so you guys can read this. Okay, during a cursory search of the old gymnasium girls' restroom, paper towels that appeared to contain blood were observed in the trash can near the sinks. Okay, the paper towels were documented with photographs collected and secured in my crime scene vehicle. My vehicle was locked and I maintained the keys. Okay, so they took those bloody paper towels from the girls' washroom. Okay. So then Steve Owens from Owens Transport was contacted by Laos County Coroner Bill Watson to conduct the removal and transport of the body to the Valdosta Lowndes Regional Crime Laboratory. Investigator Wingham, Captain Edwards, Lieutenant Jones, criminologist, blah, 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 all these people, and I conducted a final walkthrough of the crime scene in which nothing additional was noted. At approximately 17:20, which is what, 5:20, I concluded my investigation and released the scene to Investigator Staff Sergeant Winningham and the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office. On Friday at approximately 17:30 hours, Owens Transport and I arrived at the Regional Crime Laboratory with Johnson's body, placed him in body cooler 2. A Lowndes County Sheriff's Office property and evidence form were generated. This is going to come into play, you guys, in part 3. Okay. A Lowndes County Sheriff Office property and evidence form were generated for the body, item number 5, which contained the chain of custody for all the evidence that he collected. The evidence form, the scene was placed in the crime scene vehicle bay temporary evidence locker, and I maintained the keys. Crime scene items 7, 8, and 10 were saturated in blood. Okay, so that's the shoe, the towels, and let me just see, the black and white Adidas shoe, the paper towels from the restroom, and something else. I don't know what that something else is. But anyway, they were saturated in blood, so they were placed into drying cabinet 1, and I maintained the keys. So he still has the keys where all this stuff is locked up, okay? So on Sunday, January 13th, I returned to the Regional Crime Laboratory to retrieve the evidence from the locker and drying cabinet. All items of evidence were still sealed with evidence tape. The digital images of the scene were converted onto a DVD to be submitted as crime scene number 11 for evidence. The digital video recording of the scene was converted to a DVD to be submitted as crime scene 12. 12 Lowndes County Sheriff Office property and evidence forms were generated for evidence which contained the chain of custody. On Sunday, January 13th, I arrived at the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office located on Prism Farm Road and submitted the evidence to the LCSO evidence locker, and I secured the evidence. On the same day, I was asked by Lowndes County Sheriff Chris Preen if it was possible to allow Johnson's father, Kendrick Johnson, Sr., to make a positive identification of his son. Johnson's parents were escorted to the Valdosta Regional Crime Laboratory by Lieutenant Jones and Investigator Staff Sergeant Winham. Kendrick Johnson Sr., Lieutenant Jones, and Investigator Staff Sergeant Winham entered the lab and were escorted by myself to the body cooler room where the positive identification was made. On Monday, January 14, Johnson's body was released to Steve Owens for transport to the GBI for autopsy. Okay, so that is what I have for you guys today. Now, what I gave you guys there is going to come into play when we get into part 3. Okay? So, take note, save this, and like I said, you guys can scroll back through this anytime. That's why I went so slow through it. So you guys can scroll through it and read every bit and piece of it if you want to. Okay, so with that, part 3 will be coming next week. I did want to do this live for you guys, so I'm so sorry that it wasn't live, but I have some issues going on with not only my sinuses, my eyes are swelling up and stuff like that, so I've got to go to doctor and get that taken care of. So I wanted to do this quick to get it out there to you guys so you have it, and let you know that part 3 will be coming probably next week sometime, where we are going to go over video evidence that shows some discrepancies in all of this that I just showed you today. So watch for that next week. Part 3 will be coming, and maybe we will have another live between part 2 and part 3, and where we can get some of your questions and that answered. So any questions that you have, put them in the comment section underneath the video, and we will hopefully get another live going so we can answer all those questions for you. Okay, so until next time, please take care of yourselves and please stay safe. Bye-bye for now.